Welcome back, everyone. In this one, I think I'm going to go over the subject matter of religion. The reason why is because I had somebody approach me that started talking about how science was merely my opinion. Then they proceeded to go on about how I would make a good Muslim. To which my response to that was, no, I would not make a good Muslim, as I am an atheist and homosexual. There was some bit of talk about having sex with a woman, creating a baby, that kind of thing. But, honestly, this is an argument I've heard from Christians as well, is the miraculous, effervescent miracle of childbirth. When to me, it's really nothing more than cells replicating and DNA being combined, and you have protein molecules and RNA and DNA molecules. You have the blueprint of life is that of a female. We all start off as females in the womb. The ovaries grow out into testicles. With the introduction of testosterone, epigenetics are turned on and off due to testosterone versus estrogen, etc., etc. You have chromosomes, things like that. So to me, it's not really so much a miracle. It's pretty mind-blowing, I will give you that. It's mind-blowing, and I'm sure to anyone that has kids, it's probably really mind-blowing to see kind of a carbon copy of yourself. But that's what reproduction is. All life forms do it. They all reproduce in some shape or form. But I feel like religion is such a poison. I feel like it undermines logic and critical thinking and really fosters being irrational, illogical, and sometimes just downright, kind of, I hate to say it, but delusional. I feel like in society, we have taken elements from religion and tried to apply them to ourselves in such a way that it's not really realistic. It's not compatible with human nature or human biology. Take for example, the prospect of monogamy. Are we really a monogamous species? We are capable of monogamy. And thanks to Helen Fisher, we have discovered that the human brain is capable of pair bonding, of lifelong, long-term commitment, committing yourself to a person for life. But there has to be some fundamental elements there. There has to be a physical attraction, an emotional attraction, but there's also some other natural things that occur that need to happen too. The brain has to send a signal saying that person would rear good offspring. So there's multiple aspects to pair bonding that need to happen in order to actually pair bond. And then from there, I don't think it really matters. But are we really a monogamous species? I don't think that we're a promiscuous species. We are pack animals. We exist in a community, which is why we have developed a system of hierarchy. And you can see that definitely in classism, in our government structure, and the structures that we have in our workplace environments. We always have a system of hierarchy. And that's because we are a pack animal. I don't think that we're promiscuous necessarily. I would say that we're more polyamorous. And I think the polyamory is more in the area that you dwindle in when you're not pair bonded. The human brain is capable of loving more than one person, while simultaneously lusting after another. The human brain is capable of this. Like I said, it's also capable of a deep attachment where you do stay bonded for life. And that's not very common in the animal kingdom. There's only a handful of species that do that. We have the capability of it. But I think the societal pressure to be monogamous comes from religion. And that's where I ask, is that really what we should be doing? Is it really applicable to human psychology and biology? Is it realistic? Well, I can tell you this, it's idealistic. But there's a problem with idealism. Idealism is just idealism. It doesn't reflect reality. So when we look at the reality of things, does our society really encompass and foster an environment where we can express ourselves in the emotional spectrum that we actually feel, with society taking this stuff that was written thousands of years ago, it's basically the diary of a madman, and saying, you need to do this. Whereas I just don't think it's human nature. Life is not possible without tears. You are going to experience heartache. You're going to experience hardship. You're going to experience death. People die. Accidents happen. The thing that I'm against is forcing that into play, like via war, or using religion to rationalize your fucked up views on why we should kill people. So I don't really think religion and the morality that it teaches is really compatible with human psychology or our biology. And sexuality is just one way to look at it. You have to realize this. Back when religion was invented, or back when religion came into being, there was no concept of science. The only thing they had to go on was what they believed. They would see something happening in their world, and the only thing they could do is say, well, I believe that it's this. And that was their way of explaining the world around them. There was no way that they could have any access to the tools and instruments that we have developed along the way to help us understand the world around us even better. As Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about, if all religion is to you the ability to fill in the gaps that science can't, you're in trouble, because we're filling those gaps like this. People used to think that an epileptic seizure was somebody that was possessed by a demon. Science, we got that. We know what it is now. We can treat it. We can fix it. We don't throw holy water on somebody having an epileptic seizure. We know what's going on now. So if religion for you is filling in the spaces that science can't explain, you're in a lot of trouble, because we've been tackling things left and right. This is Neil deGrasse Tyson's words. And I agree with that. I think that's very true. Unfortunately, for religious folks, a wave of logic and reason has come into being. Philosophers have come around and started questioning the existence of God. When you pray, all you're doing is wishing. You're praying to a fictitious person, but you're basically wishing for something to happen. And when it does happen, hey, your wish came true. Ah, yay! Or, if you replace the word wish with praying, then God has answered your prayers. But that doesn't always happen, does it? To quote Sex Gang Children from Shattered Room, a great lyric that I like in that song is, I talk to dead magazines that show no respect, and I talk to God, but I haven't seen him yet. And I doubt myself every day, and I certainly didn't pray for no goddamn affliction. And I think that's a great line, because there's a lot of people out there praying or wishing for things to happen, and sometimes they do happen because, well, that's probability and chance. But if you wish for something that is completely impossible, God will never answer your prayer. Your wish will never come true. When Nietzsche came out and said God is dead and we killed him, I think that there's an underpinning there of we've basically overthought ourselves beyond the concept of God. We use logic and rationality to explain the world around us, and we've stopped believing in demons and monsters that are doing things. Demons and monsters and ghosts, to me, are a writing tool. You use them as a metaphor to describe something that's fucked up in reality. Another thing that I find religious folks have a hard time is grasping the sheer just awe of reality, the ability to be cognitively aware of our own existence. What it all boils down to is we are nothing more than biological machines with a biological supercomputer to think for us. Our brains are even evolved in successive stages. We have the reptilian brain. This is the inner core of the brain. Then the outer layer is the mammalian brain, which gives us the ability for compassion, empathy, sympathy, love, romantic love, lust. Well, I think actually lust is reptilian. But then there's the more conceptualized thought, the ability to start asking questions, pondering, philosophizing, mathematic equations. That's the frontal lobe and the cerebral cortex. And another thing is like with reality, this is the way that I see it, and I'm going to quote Switchblade Symphony now. The walls are broke, or the walls are cracked, the road is long, and I can't tell if their will is that strong. The beginning of that quote is, I know it hurts when you believe that everything is just as it seems. And it's true. It does kind of hurt when you realize that the reality you perceive around you is just what it is. There doesn't need to be a magical explanation for it. Why does there have to be a magical explanation for it? You're talking about volatile chemicals and chemical reactions and protons and neutrons, and for instance, we are carbon-based life forms. We are life forms where our base molecular structure is that of carbon. The foundation of our life is a molecule called carbon. We are made out of basically materials that you find around us. And when you start to see reality that way, that it's just as you think it is, it's like the couch is a couch. I'm alive because I'm alive. I'm a human because I'm a human. I'm an animal because I'm an animal. It does kind of hurt a little bit because you start seeing through the bullshit. You start seeing that we do things in society that aren't necessary. We do a lot of things that aren't necessary. And the reason I call religion the diary of a madman, if you go and you look into the Bible, there's parts of it where the Christians go on and on and on and on about abortion, being anti-abortion. They committed an infanticide in the name of God. You read through the Bible, it's almost clear that it was written by multiple people because the characteristic of God is so human-like, it's unreal. You are fooling yourself if you read through the Bible and you don't come to the conclusion this was written by multiple people. God definitely takes on the personification of human emotions and attributes. He's jealous, he's a zealot, he's narcissistic, all kinds of things. But infanticide, this is way late abortion. This is after they've popped out of the womb. They're giggling, they laugh, they cry, they have those little eyes, and they go and killing it. That is what infanticide is. There's even examples in the Bible of sacrificing and committing infanticide in the name of God, which is something you see in cult-like behaviors. And if you look in cult behaviors, if you look in cults, you will find that a lot of people that belong to cults or participate in cultish acts or activities, they got a loose end. They've got a loose end to their mind. And that's a quote from Ross Williams of Christian Death. I've said it 1,000 times before. Yes, there are religious people in the goth community. But if you look at the people that represent the goth community, the people that made the goth movement, you're talking about nihilism, which is the rejection of dogmatic beliefs. And that's where I stand. Science is not a religion, as some people are people have been proclaiming that. Science is a religion. Science is not a religion. Science is the understanding that if I push this off the table, it will fall. We can control that. We can predict it. We can analyze it. It's measurable. That's what science is. It's not based off of belief. And science is meant to adapt and evolve. Meaning that if science gets something wrong, there's always room for development and improvement. And again, back to psychology. I look at this diary of a madman, the Bible. I look at the Islam world and I keep thinking to myself, when the age of reason and logic happened, that's the day that we should have put all religion aside. All people deserve rights. We should stop subjugating women, stop persecuting homosexuals. Stop all this fear-mongering, all this hate-mongering. It bears no relevance. All the violent attributes because of religion, the witch burnings, witch trials, hanging people, torturing people, they used to drill a hole in people that had mental problems. They would drill a hole in their head to let the demons out. That in itself is an insane idea. That is delusional. And I think religion is really just propagating that nonsense. How many people out there are in a marriage of convenience? How many people out there have committed adultery, and why? How many people out there are in a marriage where they're happy and they love their partner, but they want to experience something else? Maybe just once, maybe just a few times. Does that make you a bad person? I don't think it makes you a good person, but I don't know that it makes you a bad person either. I don't see the antagonist or the protagonist in that situation. As merely I see you as being just simply neutral and being human. And I think that monogamy is a beautiful thing. And I totally encourage monogamy in people that find pair bonding and find that kind of connection, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful when you see that couple that's been together for 50 years and they still gaze into each other's eyes and could look into them for eternity. My grandparents are that way. My grandmother is in her 80s, my grandpa is in his 90s. And they still look at each other and their cheeks turn red and they smile. Like they're just still in love. And that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fucking thing. But to push that on society as the norm and not make room for understanding emotional pain and heartache, are we really doing ourselves any favors? I don't think so. I think we're following the dreams of a madman. I think we should look more to psychology and trying to understand ourselves as the human animal that we are, the human essence, our actual psychology, the way that we actually interact with each other. And maybe then we can start understanding the truths. I like to be as honest as possible. And to anyone that ever says to me that they never lie, I say that they are a liar. Because everyone lies. It's a self-defense mechanism. But the point is to try and be as honest as you possibly can. Honest. As honest as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can. That is the policy that I hold. But I am human and I am subject to fallibility, and I engage in self-defense mechanisms, and I lie as well. And sometimes it takes a sacrifice to go against that. But aren't you doing yourself wrong by listening to the Bible and being in a relationship because the Bible says you need to be monogamous and you're unhappy? Are you doing yourself any justice by that? Are you being true to yourself, or are you living a lie? Is it healthy to live a lie? Is that psychologically healthy? Is that physically healthy? Is that biologically healthy? I don't think it is. I think we should stop pretending that we're celestial, angelic beings that are infallible, that are in the spitting image of the Creator, of divinity. We're not. We're sexual creatures. Sexual creatures are meant to procreate. We're meant to reproduce. We do these things. There's a lot that goes into attraction. There is a definite difference between love, lust, and romantic love. Notice how I said there's a difference, and I mentioned love and romantic love? Romantic love is in that spectrum of monogamy and pair bonding. Love is when you just care for somebody. Lust is just pure carnal sex. The Bible and all of our religious upbringings, it doesn't have a clause for that. The Bible is not a handbook to life. There is no book you can find out there that is a guide for life. And then there will never be one. But we can get as close as we can by stop pretending that we are these celestial beings that are perfect, that we're constantly on the edge of being the antagonist or the protagonist based on the decision that we make, when things are not that black and white. In another person's eyes, you may be perceived as the antagonist. But in your own eyes, you may perceive yourself as the protagonist. Because what you're doing is you're trying to do something to make you true to yourself, because you don't want to live a lie. And our society doesn't really talk about those feelings. We don't talk about the icky feelings we don't like, the sadness, the heartache, the depression. We don't like to talk about that now, do we? Well, maybe we need to start talking about it. Maybe we need to start being realistic that we are animals and we have a complex psychology. And maybe we need to stop hating each other for that and realize that tragedy is tragedy, and it is what it is. And there's no way around it. Nick Cave, and Andreas Gross quoted this on her album, to quote Nick Cave, the one thing life can guarantee, the only thing life can guarantee, is an abundant amount of pain. You will experience happiness. And I hope to everyone out there that's seeking that monogamy and that pair bond relationship, that feeling of basically love, romantic love, that deep connection, that deep attachment. To everyone that seeks that out there, I hope you find it. But we need to start being honest with ourselves that that's not, you don't just meet somebody and that happens. We need to start being honest that it's not pair bonding, and it's not that when you're looking for stability. That it's not that situation when you're looking for convenience, emotional support, rationality, and things like that. There's a thing called passion. And you may make a good team with somebody, but that doesn't mean that there's passion there. That's what I mean. Finding that pair bond is a really hard thing to do, because you have to find that equation. And I think we need to be more honest in our society. But back to into the religious thing. It's frightening when somebody says that I would make a good Muslim and tells me that I should go to Mecca. I don't know everything about Islam. I don't know everything. I'm not the guru of Islam. But I know that I am right that Mecca does not allow non-Muslims in that area. And to my understanding, and I don't know if this is true, but my understanding is they will have public executions of homosexuals, apostates, atheists at Mecca. And that's going to start to get into liberalism and democratization and how the SJWs need to wake the fuck up. I'm not going to say woke. That's not the right word. You're ignoring things. A lot of liberals are at least secular. And we need to start looking at the damage that religion is doing. The atheist community, the skeptic community, has attacked the Islam issue. I have no problem with Islamic people. I'm used to being surrounded by a bunch of religious fundamentalists. I have no problem with a person from the Islamic world coming over to the Western civilization, keeping their religion, but respecting our laws and boundaries and realizing we take freedom to a new level for them. And if they respect that and they don't go around hurting or shaming people, I'm okay with that. And even if they want to use their freedoms and take off the hijab and take off the burqa and, do like a lot of Christians have done in, like with the gay thing in Christianity. A lot of them have reconciled their differences with homosexuality and realized, maybe the Bible isn't right about this one. Maybe we need to stop being so hateful. And I'm not saying there's not some good teachings in the Bible. One of my phrases, the phrases that I like in the Bible is, catch a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he will eat for life. There is a lot of truth in that. But the funny thing is I think the truth in it is this. Stop filling your head with religion and start educating yourself. I've been to college 3 times. A lot of the education that you hear coming from me is self-taught. I like knowledge. I get curious about a lot of things, and I go and seek out the information because I want to know the facts. I want to know as much as I possibly can. And a lot of the times, even when I come across, psychologists or biologists or medical experts on specific matters, I even question that at the point of, am I getting this from a reliable source or am I getting this from a nut job? So I try and find multiple sources. And I try and keep an open mind that I could be wrong. And in religion, you don't have room for that. I've never heard a religious person say, I might be wrong. I say it a lot. And the things that I say, the facts that I present, I'm aware. I knew when I started this YouTube channel that I could be put to scrutiny, that I could be criticized, and I had to be willing to take it. And I'm telling you right now, I could be wrong. I know that. And if I get new information, I will come out and I will do my best to come out and say, guess what? I found some new information. This is more solid. I was wrong. I will try my best. I've never heard a religious person say, when they talk about God, when they talk about religion, that they could be wrong. That's kind of a scary thought. The day that you think you are never wrong and always right is the day that you lose. Religion is poisoning people's minds. I would like to see a day where people stop running over innocent civilians with cars. People stop trying to bomb buildings, shoot up gay nightclubs. I would like to see that day. There's no reason for this. Life is hard enough as it is. We don't need all these added problems. And the shitty thing about it is religion will also force you to believe in it. For a long time in the Christian world, atheists, seculars were afraid to speak out against religion, especially during the witch trials. You would be branded as a heretic and you would be put to death. So a lot of them stayed silent. A few really ballsy philosophers started getting up and questioning religion. And that's when it started happening. The concept of there not being a God has been around for a long time. Really ancient philosophers, really old philosophers, questioned the relativity of God. They thought maybe there was a different answer that we weren't seeing. It's not a new concept, atheism, anti-theism, secularism. nihilism. It's not new. It's been around for a long time. I think it's time that we fully embrace the age of logic and reason and philosophy. We should stop going off of a book that was written by a madman thousands of years ago that has rules in it that are no longer applicable to us today. Like I said, there was no way they could have known anything about science back then. The only thing they had to go on was their belief. That's it. That's all they had. Now we have tools and instruments and we have technology. We've witnessed the growth of human life in the womb because of technology. But religion forces you into it. They hold a gun and basically a pistol at your head and said, follow our way or die. And believe me, that was Christianity back in the day. Anyone that's a homosexual in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I know you're living in hell. I know you are. Because they're putting a loaded gun to your head, and they're saying, you can't be, even though you are. So they're forcing you to live a lie. I thought to myself when they said you'd make a good Muslim, it made me think of global Sharia and global Islam and the extremists that push that narrative. And it made me think how unhappy I would be if I was forced to pretend to believe in something I absolutely did not believe in. Or forced me to pretend to be heterosexual when I'm completely not interested in females whatsoever. Emotionally, mentally, physically. Yeah, I have female friends. But I have no romantic desire for them. I have no sexual desire for them. I've never been in love with a female. Never. To be honest, I forget females are different than me. I don't think about what they look like naked. I forget that they have vaginas. I forget that they have tits. And I'm not saying that in a sexist way. I'm saying that in a sense that I literally just don't, my sexual interest in them is just that low. I just don't think of them that way. They're like genderless people. They're people, but I have no interest in their gender. Not sexually, not romantically, not in a love sense. To be forced into that would be hell. And the sad part is that when you believe, when you're sure, when you think, probably the most probable actuality is that there is nothing after death, you've wasted your whole life living in hell. Your whole life. Living with a woman you're not sexually attracted to, you're not in love with, you're in love and you're sexually attracted to a man, or if you're a woman, to another woman. But under Sharia, under Islam, you can't. And you just live in hell, and you live a lie your entire life, only to die, and that's your only life experience, and it's gone. That. Now, I could be wrong. And if there is an afterlife, great. But if I'm right, and there isn't an afterlife, fuck. We should stop waiting for heaven. We should start trying to make life here more livable, more just better for us, for future generations, and even for our own. This is what we should be striving for. We should be looking at our psychology, and for those that do want to find the pair bond, maybe looking at the brain and finding who we could pair bond with. Because you would have to actually look at the brain. You would have to do a scan of it and look at brain activity to find out if you actually could pair bond. I mean, yeah, you could talk to them and see that way too. There are tests that say you're more compatible with such and such, but to actually find out if you could pair bond with them, that's something that takes place subconsciously. That's not something you have control over. It's a feeling, it's an emotion. Emotions are not rational. It's something you just feel or you don't. And you can't control it. You just can't. It's every man for himself, and it's God against all. It's another quote from Sex Game Children. And it's true, it is God against all. Because God is constantly undermining humanity. Well, just humanity. It's not compatible with us. It's not compatible with our biology. And it's certainly not compatible with our psychology. I just can't imagine, though, global Sharia, global Islam. I would beg to ask if that were even the case, and this would even be a double-edged sword, this would be a double standard, but I would ask, could I continue to exist with the premise of accepting that your religion is better than mine? Obviously, your religion is better than mine. I don't have one. So can I continue to exist as a scruff on society? Basically, the bottom pit of society. I would rather live in the bottom pit of society and be able to be myself than have to pretend to be something or someone I'm not. And it flies in the face of decency for every liberal or anything that considers itself to be democratization. If you think that supporting that idea is democratization or the liberal thing to do, I want to ask you why you think that. Because that sounds like hell. We create hell. We are our own worst enemy. We create imaginary things to hate each other over. We create hell by creating an atmosphere that is psychologically traumatizing, physically traumatizing and hard on us, medically bad for us. So yeah, some things will take sacrifices. Maybe we do need to cut back on the sugar intake. Maybe we do. I agree with Trout and T's video where he talked about liberalism and sacrifices. I can see that. But you have to understand, with freedom comes great responsibility. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell button. And with that, I'm